Hey guys, Ron here, and this will be the scariest video on the channel, so be warned. I invited 3 other fantastic artists and gave them one of the toughest challenges in this series, to create the scariest Pokemon possible. But here's the catch. They can't just make a super scary monster and call it a Pokemon. It very much has to look like it can work inside the Pokemon franchise. We want to see what is the limit when it comes to how scary a Pokemon can be without it being so scary that Game Freak would never even come close to consider releasing it. Keep in mind, we did set a rule for no Ultra Beasts, since those already break the preconceived limits of what Pokemon can look like. Since fear is incredibly subjective, this video is split into 2 rounds. Each artist made one Pokemon that they think would be scary to a majority of Pokemon players, and then another Pokemon that would trigger whatever phobias the artist personally has. It's difficult creating a Pokemon that tests the limits of Pokemon's art style, so please leave a like, subscribe, and check the description for the artists in today's video to respect their hard work. And check out the previous 4 artist videos if you haven't. I'm sure there are a few amazing episodes you might have missed. Thank you guys for being here because again, this is the hardest challenge ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
On this channel, at least.
It was a fun challenge because we probably went a little overboard and then you're like, okay, let's look at the official art. Let's see what the lengths they'll go as far as making a scary Pokemon, you know, while we're trying to make a friend.
Exactly.
Right? It still has to be something you see in the overworld, which is why here I'm going back to Sugimori's style. Listen, it wouldn't be a collaboration if I didn't do a little something.
Here we go.
For the audience. Hello. I'm Mr. Bonny John, aka Professor Bodhi, but it's Halloween. Okay, so we gotta spook things up, alright? We're gonna start. Professor Broody is in the lab and we were cooking.
Okay.
And maybe I won't show as much as I'll read.
Oh, okay.
A fairy tale. Ooh. Something that trainers, maybe their mothers, had to read them bedtime stories to make sure they wouldn't roam out into the woods.
I'm gonna turn off my lights.
Oh, get full spooky. Oh, I like that.
Well, I wish we recorded way later in the day. Reoma's probably the only one who's...
Yeah, guys, I'm freaking out right now.
For the Americans, we have daylight right now, so this can be hard.
Well, some of us. There's a looming hurricane that I can see.
Yeah, it's pretty spooky down there.
There once was a boy who left to roam because he felt trapped in his home. Mom and Da said, "Do your chores." He said, "No thanks," and slammed the door. Later that night, he took his cloak and fled to the woods in a puff of smoke. But as he stepped and shuffled through, the shapes of the trees grew more askew. In utmost fear, he ran and fell. His story sadly ends not well. Pillars of white, they drop so fast, like a ship without a mast. First he feared, and then he prayed. His life was now the price to pay. No matter how hard he fought with rage, he died by the hands of the...
Oh.
Suffocate.
Hey, yo! Oh, look at the legs, their fingers. Oh, that's cool.
Oh, nasty.
Suffocate is the relentless Pokemon. This is the horror Pokemon that might scare more people outside of my own self. In fact, much like Master Chief, I'm not afraid of anything. So I really sat down and I'm like thinking like, all right, I can go to Google and, you know, look up like what people are afraid of. And so I just grabbed a whole bunch of things. Arachnophobia was at the top. Fear of like holes and circular shapes. So if you notice on Suffocage's face, his eyes become what look like teeth. Just the idea of making something uncanny. You know, our human brains, our monkey brains, we look at things and we might find faces or human shapes. That's just how we find patterns and things. So
true. I
wanted to disguise one of the scariest things people are afraid of, spiders, as a hand reaching out to help someone.
Holy shit, he's huge!
He's massive.
Just notice the size. He grabs you.
Suffocage are relentless predators that attack anything that enters its lairs. As heavy as it is, it does not use web, so it secretes pheromones to disguise its location and confuse prey that enter its lair. It uses the spikes on the tips of its legs to pierce into cavernous walls, and it can hang, you know, upside down as needed for as long as needed. Once the nerve endings of its quote-unquote nails can feel changes and vibrations in the wall and the airs that let it knows that prey is nearby. At a moment's notice, it drops down, collapsing its entire body weight onto its prey. It then clamps its long legs around the victim, suffocating them under its body weight until it feels the creature giving up.
Jeez. And it's dark.
Damn.
First I had 8 eyes, and then I had, 8 legs, but it's a matter of scaling it down to still feel like a Pokemon. And while it's probably creepy and scary to look at a quick glance, there's fun stuff that's happening here to make it feel a little more approachable. The mandibles look like a cute mustache.
Speak for yourself. I'm terrified of mustaches.
It could work upside down as well, so I could crawl on the walls.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Locomotion was a huge thing.
Well, yeah, so the movement is probably what's going to make this even more scary. If anybody wants to animate it, I don't know, nobody. But
Yeah, animating spiders, I can only imagine. That's...
the most underrated thing that makes it scary is the fact that it's a normal type. Because if it's a
Yes,
bug,
thank you.
that means it's just a bug. It exists in the world, but normal in the shape of this, unsettling.
Thank you for pointing that out, because the number one pet peeve I have whenever I design Fakemon and Pokemon, Bonny, why is it not this type? This type. Leaning into the irony that this very creepy, very clearly what looks like a bug is just normal. It adds to the fear factor, so to speak.
I feel like normal types can either be like really cute Pokemon or incredibly strange and sometimes unsettling Pokemon. That versatility, I think, is the key for finding a comfortable middle ground between something that feels scary but also is believable as a Pokemon.
What do you think it's made out of if it is a normal type? I'm seeing like steel.
It's made out of friends. He's
Surely
your friend
not.
with a big mustache.
Surely not.
Look,
that's nice.
What if you had a can of Pringles with this guy? Life would be pretty good. He could reach into the actual container when there's like 1 or 2 chips left.
And he looks like the Pringles guy.
I know some people are going to look at this and are going to be like, this is not as scary as can be because, we've had spider Pokemon. But, if this really did exist and we did a poll, what is the scariest Pokemon? I think this would win.
Yeah.
It's just I feel like all of ours is gonna win that. I think that's the point of this video. Not make the scariest thing ever, but make the scariest Pokemon ever. And this is definitely a contender, obviously.
And that's what phobias are, right? Sometimes they're not explainable, right? If someone has a fear that we might scoff or laugh at, it's just their brain chemistry.
Yeah.
And so,
or their
I
experiences.
personally love spiders. I think they're cute. I can understand why people don't like them.
I'm looking at the Pokemon right now. I'm like, I have no problem with it. Because here's the thing, I am super arachnophobic. I have no problem with this Pokemon. But when I see the silhouette, especially the size, that is my number one fear.
I think what gets me the most is the fingernails. They're so well drawn. They're so perfectly thin. It's really impressive. But it's just that kind of slight human kind of inclusion that really freaks me out. And it probably walks really quietly too on those fingernails, you wouldn't see it coming.
No, imagine in a cavern hearing the echo of that.
Yeah.
Nah, just kill me. Just kill me. I don't
Oh, so that's what you're afraid of.
I'm afraid of the sound. See, the unknown.
No, I'm just afraid of the giant spider. I feel like
I know what it is, and I'm afraid of it.
Actually, it's not a spider. It's not a bug type. So.
It's a dragon type. Why didn't you make this a dragon type,
it
honestly?
could literally
Yeah,
be
what the
any
heck?
type. This
Normal
thing.
dragon.
Normal dragon.
Yeah, normal
That'd be
dragon
sick.
confirmed.
Round 1 successful.
Woo!
Yep.
Let's go.
Can't wait to see what you're personally afraid of. For now, I guess it's my turn. I'm just gonna show it to you.
All right.
I'm gonna have you guys figure out what the hell you're looking at it.
Okay.
And also, what kind of
Okay.
fears? Maybe you guys can propose what kind of fears this represents, because this is just what I think the most people are afraid of. I'm afraid of this too. I am afraid of this trope.
Whoa.
What?
Ugh. This is
Hello.
actually very unsettling. Very
Is this?
spirited away.
Is it called pareidolia or fear of faces or seeing faces?
Oh, interesting. I don't actually know what the word for that is.
I feel I see Asiatic or Japanese influence. Is it also tying in yokai? I feel like you're channeling that with an anteater. Yes? No?
It is the general fear of scary things, honestly.
Just fear in general.
First, let's talk about the creatures that I'm most scared of. These are technically not even creatures. They're technically Jeff the Killer.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was thinking of that.
Probably the number one character that I am scared of the most. For example, Momo was also like a big inspiration. Scary faces, just anything that is a scary face, not like a specific phobia, just scary face.
Yeah, that just like distorting human facial features to the point where it's incredibly unsettling.
Exactly. I don't even know if I should show these are actually scary faces. Like, this is legit scary.
Isn't that interesting how that you almost feel like you have to censor it? It's so disturbing, and it's really, you know, there's nothing explicitly wrong with it. It's not violent, it's not gory, you know, it's not like someone's being shot or anything like that. It's just a face, but it is really, really unsettling. I think universally, I think unless you don't react to any kind of human facial cues or anything like that, like, I think everyone would find these images unsettling.
And that's the thing, it's a very primal fear.
I think it's the slight kind of editing of humanity, right? Like, just like tiny tweaks that make it unsettling. And I think that's probably going to be a constant between a lot of our designs today.
True. It's the tiny things. It's too close to what we are, but something's off, you know? I'll show you some betas, because again, that's the thing. It's like you start off with just a scary little gremlin. You're like, obviously this is not a Pokemon, but I need to hone in on what is scary to me in drawing form. So then I went full on just scary creature that can't be a Pokemon.
Ooh. I like this.
So then I'm like, okay, I need to take this. I need to make this more like, has to be made of shapes. Instead of actually very like anatomical, like can't look like an actual biological creature, it has to be made of shapes like a Pokemon. So I made it just like more like weirder proportions, I guess. But the whole point is that even if I did just even streamline this even more, it would still make no sense in the Pokemon world. Why is there just a creature that's smiling that is just scary for the sake of being scary? It has to be scary for a reason. Then once I made Gaunt Eater, the whole point is that it's just an anteater.
Oh, I like this rendering.
And that was like by mistake. You see that cow has like a little nose there on the chin?
Yeah, the shape of the face, yeah.
The nose was like a last minute addition. Originally it was just going to be this scary creature, but then I'm like, wait, the chin really does look like the shape of an anteater. So I made it an actual anteater. And that was before I even added the patterns on the legs, because then I realized, when it started to look like an anteater, I realized that, wait a second, anteaters do have, at least some of them, these patterns on their hands that make it look like they have another face on their hands.
Yeah, it almost looks like they have a giant mouth going all the way down the front of their body, too.
Well, that too, wow, now that I think of it, yeah. They're very creepy. I'm actually creeped out by anteaters. I mean, they're cuddly. I'd hug one, but like, I'd be unsettled first. And that's the whole point here. This is unsettling, but like, it's just a normal creature in the Pokemon world. Like, you could hug it, it'll be fine with you. It is a ghost normal type. The whole point is that it like sniffs out targets by like smelling their souls. And it can like, you know, also it's like a sleuth, so it could smell basically the past and the future. It could smell ghosts. It's like Decidueye, where it's not actually a ghost, but it has mastery over spectral powers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then it could even like slash your soul out of you.
If the mood strikes it might slash the soul out of you.
Just casual.
But the number one thing I guess that it needs to be explained is the ability terminal target, and it just basically boosts accuracy every hit. So every hit you land, the better your accuracy is.
Interesting.
Big enough to be freaky.
Yeah, it's big enough where if you saw it moving at you, you would certainly be unsettled, even if it didn't have any intention of hurting you. Because it does, you know, again, sort of with distorting humanoid features, like, it kind of also just looks like a person walking on all fours. Like,
Yeah!
Yeah.
That would be scary.
Yeah, like-
exactly.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, like, it really is like a basic human survival instinct to like look for the head of any animal, because we're trying to figure out like, what is this thing? Does it want to hurt me? And when something has more than one face, or it appears to have more than one face, it immediately becomes that much scarier, because you're like, what am I looking at here? Where is it coming from? What is it? Which part of it wants to hurt me? Does any part of it want to hurt me? And like, I'm imagining it like coming out of the darkness and
All
just
parts.
one leg first, and you see the face on its leg, and you're like, oh shit, what is that? And then you see the other leg come out, and you're like, wait, what is that? And then you see the head come out, and you're like, okay, wait, what am I looking at?
I was gonna say, or I present to you a scenario where it's dark and it's not moving, and three
Oh
heads
my
are staring
God.
at you from over the brush. Nah.
I hope this
no.
is believable though in like the Pokemon world. Like, I hope this still looks like a Pokemon.
Only one way to find out. After you finish modeling Suffocage, model Gaunt Eater.
And I guess another tidbit is also, I guess the back legs do look like weird. They just look weird.
Like, if those were just stubs back there, it would feel a little lacking. I like that it's got this fluid motion through where it's sort of dragging its fur across the ground.
Exactly. It looks like a dragger. This is the drag Pokemon.
No, that was your Matisse.
But I guess another like subconscious inspiration is that it does kind of look like A dog?
Yeah, like a bourgeois.
Yeah.
No, not no Full Metal Alchemist.
No, that is 100% what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
This is the Alexander Pokemon.
No!
Horrifying.
I also like the subtle inclusion of the actual eyes. Like you can barely see them, but it does help you clarify that like the faces on the arms are not actual faces because you can see the real eyes there on the face.
I guess it's Reoma's turn.
It is indeed. Instead of thinking about what's general, I'll think about what would scare little kids who are playing the game.
Oh.
So I went and asked my sister what she's scared of. And what I got back from her was creepy puppets and dolls staring glowing eyes like in the dark.
Yeah.
And she hates Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah.
All very tangential.
Which won't be entirely absent from the design, but it will take a backseat for sure.
Yes.
I think you need the transition from something nice to something scary.
Oh.
So, to start off, this is...
Ooh, okay.
Ooh, love
The
it.
style too, the art style.
Very cute.
He's flipping me off. That's a
Okay.
Yo, where is this guy? Come get your man's real.
She's gonna scrap. Okay, so yeah, this is Suzime from Suzy and Seam. Basically, just a little child. I took a lot of stuff from like Victorian kind of fashion, like gothic stuff. But really, it's kind of a doll that is a human.
That's very problematic.
I don't like where this is going.
It's kind of the setup. Okay, so the dex entry is, despite their doll-like bodies and fabric-esque skin, Suzime are fully organic Pokemon and are theorized to be the closest relative of the human species found within the Pokemon world. Possessing anthropoid curiosity and empathy, researchers have found that Suzime do not react well emotionally to combat and have advised Pokemon trainers against battling with them.
Dude,
does not want
Explain
to
the
battle.
ability.
Wait, oh, this is
Suzime does not want to battle.
That's scary.
That in and of itself is creepy.
Suzime does not want to battle. How it works, like, is basically that it works as if it's too high level and it just won't obey you. So you can still level it up, but yeah, it is very difficult to use, and the stats aren't good either. So another thing I put in there was something that I'm personally scared of, or I was scared of as a kid. Was, do you guys know about Punch and Judy?
No.
No.
No, it's a British thing. It's like a
Yeah.
seaside puppet show. Let me find the.
Oh, I'm
Places.
familiar with characters
Yeah.
like this.
Well, yeah, whenever we see these kind of things, they're supposed to be creepy, so.
Yeah, but they're not supposed to be creepy, which is why they show them to kids and they freak me out.
Hey, yo,
Yeah,
stop
there you go.
that!
No, get that out of the server.
It's based on the baby. You can see the baby in the middle of there. I'm gonna also weave a tale. So sit around the campfire
All right.
and prepare.
Yay.
The Galar region, 100 years ago. Inheritors of a great Galarian industry, a father, a mother, a boy, and a young girl lived in a hammerlock manor alongside a curious friend, little Suzime, the household Pokemon. Adopted as a suitably decorous family companion, Suzime and the girl were inseparable. They played the days away, pantomiming in the dollhouse, learning from their mother and picking baskets of persimmberries from the foot of the garden.
Oh, nah.
Full send.
On the boy's 12th birthday, it was decided he would embark on the gym challenge, a path that would carve out greater status for their lineage, and becoming the boy's trusted partner, Suzime would be the one to accompany him on the journey. As the family saw them off, the young girl gave an apprehensive wave goodbye and tried to calm her quivering lip, hoping she would see her friend soon. Eventually, the disquieting darkness of Suzime's Pokeball gave way to the fog of the countryside and to the snarling of her first opponent. An order was barked at her. Suzime, use tackle! Confused but noting the boy's expectation, she focused herself, ready to approach, but a knot twisted in her stomach. She wasn't supposed to do this. Something felt wrong. Use tackle, Suzime. The knot in her stomach tightened. Tackle! A lash of haze fell over her mind, taking her back to that disquieting darkness. Fog rescinding, Suzime watched the Zigzagoon faint away into the grass. The boy looked satisfied, recalling Suzime into her ball. The fight was over, but the knot in her stomach did not loosen. Months later, the Watson girl sat at the lookout in the cove of a window. Far too spacious for just one girl. Her parents spoke of her brother's return, the region's newest champion, but the girl's thoughts lingered on her friend. She hoped Suzine would be happy to see her again. Sister, her brother spoke, hushing his parents who fussed over his accolades. I'm sure you've been waiting to see your old friend. A smile spread across her face as her brother released a scuffed-up Pokeball from his grip. Instead of the ball hitting the floor, it began to rise. Snapping open as tendrils of thread tore from the mechanism, strangulating the corners of the emerging light. As light became form, the girl's precious friend was revealed, hanging over her on strings from a Pokeball on high, limp. This is Jack.
Yo! I think he's insulting you, Jack.
F Jack, F for you.
Yeah, I knew that would come up. I kind of forgot about it.
Oh my god, the tendrils from the Pokeball. That's never seen that before, honestly.
That's wild. That's the marionette strings.
Exactly. So yeah, it's called Jack, not because I'm telling Jack anything rude, but because it's from effigy, hijack, and like a jack from a card game. So this is based on Punch from Punch and Judy. Is a normal fighting type now because it's, you know, a perfect fighting machine.
Ooh, that again, when it's not like a dark or ghost type, it's scarier for some reason.
Yeah.
Like loss of autonomy and control, just like it is terrifying for many people in the world, I'm sure. But you know, clowns and jesters. Again, Five Nights at Freddy's, it's kind of a puppet in that way, you know, an animatronic puppet sort of thing. The result of a sapient consciousness engaging in Pokemon battles. The stress on Jack's soul has forced it to resign to a fate as a lifeless fighting machine. Jack cannot move, emote, or react without command from its trainer. The strings and threads left from its time as a Suzine shackle it to its Pokeball.
Wow.
Dude, read the ability, because honestly, I think that may be the best ability ever.
That's a cool concept for an ability.
Yeah,
Yes, so yeah, this Pokemon will always be able to use the move commanded of it, so it can never miss, it can never, like, be, you know, stopped, it goes through Protect, but if it does that, it loses a bunch of HP. It kind of, you know, it shows the recoil.
Damn, that's how you tell a story.
You've sort of taken both aspects of the prompt, horror and Pokemon, and this is a Pokemon-specific horror. It's sort of subverting what we all like about Pokemon with something that we've been very comfortable with since we've discovered the series, which is that Pokemon and humans work together. And it takes that and it turns it into something really scary and unpleasant, and it makes us feel like, oh geez, are we forcing these creatures to do things they don't want to do? And it's like beyond just horror visuals, it's a horror motif that is very uncomforting.
You turn the game into a horror game.
Yeah,
the gameplay itself is horrible.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like Team Plasma, and the idea is that like it's just this one because it has like the soul of a human inside it, not like fully just a human like Phantump or Kadabra or whatever, but like it feels enough to be uncomfortable engaging in these kind of animalistic things. So in order to once it's being controlled like that, it changes into this.
But you were smart, because honestly, design-wise, I think Pokemon could easily do this, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for.
But then, so you pushed the gameplay aspect, I guess, which is smart. Because that's what Gaunt Eater looks like a human crawling. Yours also, it would be unsettling to see a human fight in a Pokemon battle against its will.
I think maybe the only difference would be that Pokemon wouldn't be so explicit with the storytelling. I think it would... The creator, let's say you created this for Pokemon and became an official Pokemon, I think you and everyone who worked on the game would be aware of it, and they'd like release information about it in little pieces. Maybe there's an animated short here, there's an episode of the anime there.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't see that story in the game, like it wouldn't even play through it or anything. But that's why I made the ability, because that kind of all the storytelling I felt I needed. Maybe I should have left it ambiguous, but you know, I had fun writing.
I need you and your beautiful voice to read my poem from earlier.
Yeah, I was gonna say the accent really.
That
contributes a lot.
I also wrote it to like the tune of a sea shanty, so you're lucky you didn't hear me do that.
I'm disappointed I didn't get to hear you do that.
You've got the trainer who is like saying do the attack.
What if it just takes like 3 seconds longer to come out of the ball?
Ooh.
It's like trying not to come out.
Yeah.
Oh, and that would be so creepy because it's, again, that's another aspect of horror that you can really utilize is subverting expectations. There's one thing that happens the same way every single time. Every Pokemon comes out of their Pokeball the exact same amount of time. And the one time that doesn't happen, it's immediately uncanny. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Is my game broken? What's happening?
Could
That
you
would be really
imagine
cool.
You release it and like tumbles out, crashing to the ground face first, and it's got like, it's trying to pick itself up, but the strings kind of yoink it up, and it's like standing there and just, oh my god, I'm crying.
Okay, now we're just torturing the guy. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Also, I do feel a little inadequate here. I also didn't write a fun story for mine, but I was thinking a pretty storybook, kind of similarly to Bonny and Reoma. I was thinking kind of old school, like Grimm's fairy tale, little illustrations in a storybook, kind of horror. Just because I find that to be equal parts scary and interesting. Like I like getting into it. I like thinking about what was scary 300 years ago and what about those things are still scary today. Things like witches, the concept of some sort of spellcaster or someone who puts curses on people or has some knowledge that the rest of wherever they live it does not have access to. Almost every culture from around the world throughout all of history has some concept of a witch. So this is Kaka Yaga, and I think we all sort of experienced the same thing, or at least Ron, definitely with your sketches, we kind of got the same experience where like we drew something that we found really creepy, and then we were like, okay, but how do I make this look like a Pokemon? I find something very creepy again about distorting human anatomy, distorting human faces. Characters with abnormally large heads really freak me out, and I think that's pretty scary for a lot of people, and it's used a lot in horror. There's a yokai, a Japanese myth.
Hey! Oh, nah.
It's basically just a giant old lady's head that just sort of floats around and causes mischief. Can't remember what this lady is called, but she always freaked me out when I was a kid. Is she called Baba? That's really funny.
Something Baba, yeah.
Yubaba,
yeah.
Yubaba.
And especially when she's in her like bird form, I found it very unsettling. Like, speaking of Baba, like the Baba Yaga, another witch character, and sort of a lot of parallels between like birds and old ladies.
Why do humans hate old ladies? No,
I think that really comes from old horror, like back in a time where it was just like really deeply ingrained sexism, where it's just like, oh, you're useless, you're an old lady, you don't do anything for me. But then they also tacked onto it like, oh, you have some understanding of nature or medicine or spiritualism that I don't understand or agree with, so I'm going to demonize you. This was one of the first sketches that I did. And it wasn't until I started thinking about like bird features, avian features, that I thought I was more in the territory of something that felt like a real Pokemon design, or something that at least felt believable. And, bringing in human features into a non-human sort of body plan, I think kind of helped me feel eerie and unusual and creepy. And I just sort of gave it the flavor of a general storybook creature where it sort of follows you through the woods without you really noticing, and it's watching you, and it's kind of laughing at you from a distance, but its laugh sounds like a bird cry, and it slowly starts to get into your head, and it kind of makes you feel like you're getting lost even if you think you know where you're going, and you end up getting more and more lost until you're deep in the woods, and then who knows what it does with you then.
It definitely elicits 100% a Pokemon folklore.
Copy paste, so give me a second here. But there was another piece of inspiration that I had. MC Escher did a lot. He was a weird artist that did a lot of like perspective stuff. Oftentimes he had these characters in his illustrations that were like strange birds with human heads. I just found it creepy. It's like it's not terrifying, but it is unsettling, and that's sort of the vibe I wanted to go for.
It's almost like speculative fiction, like All Tomorrows, where it's like, what if we evolved humans into something like this in the future? It would be crazy. It would be scary.
So when you eventually kind of marry the two things, like sapience and like sentience, it creates like this unholy matrimony in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it a bird? No, but it's got a human's face. It's as intelligent as we, but it can do something we can't. It can fly.
Yeah.
It can do this. It can do that.
Based on so far what we've shown, the number one thing that the humans are afraid of are just other humans.
Yeah,
twisted
yeah.
humans.
Yeah, I've always thought that to be like the biggest factor in horror design is just a human element always makes it creepier.
Obviously, the shading wise, I love it.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Incredible
beautiful.
render.
Thank you.
Crazy how I said, oh, this will be a quick one. We're halfway done.
Yeah.
We gotta show, I guess, the ones that are more personal to us, what we think is the scariest thing on Earth, what we are most afraid of. It'll be faster because it'll be probably based on phobias that we pretty much understand and not some like abstract fears like we're talking about here. But Bonnie, I want to know what makes you wet your pants.
Well, that's why I wear diapers. Listen, when I was thinking about fears, like what actually made me afraid, I was kind of struggling because, yeah, I joke like I'm not afraid of anything, but I started making a list and a lot of it was abstract. Fear of the unknown, fear of what waits for us after death. Even the fear of aging has been kind of something I'm wrestling with, and all of these I'm like having difficulty translating into a Pokemon. So let's meet the first.
Whoa!
He's not scary.
Wait, what? Why is that? Why did that? All right, it's this freaking hurricane. All right, let's try this one.
Oh my god.
No, what the? Dude, why?
Huh?
I'm setting. No.
do
This.
something.
Why, I am sliding my Pokemon in, dude. Why is it substituting it for? Guys, I have to share this, my screen with you guys. What the frick is this?
What?
I told you not to record during a hurricane.
I know. Well, it's not my fault. This Hurricane Milton. How are you gonna name yourself Milton Hurricane? Anyway, what is Strange Doll?
Oh
Don't
my
click on
God.
that. Don't click on that, dude.
I have to click.
Oh my
on
no.
this. What?
Oh my god.
Oh no. Strange Doll.
Dude, don't send us any more files. I really don't want to get hacked.
Where does the substitute doll come from?
Oh jeez, I don't know. I always thought it was like a cute version of Kangaskhan's baby.
I personally think that since every Pokemon is descendant of Mew, it has a tiny something in their DNA that allows them to transform to something that looks like the first Pokemon that Mew ever transformed into.
Ooh, I like that a lot. I decided to maybe lean into discovering where substitute dolls come from.
Whoa.
Giratina.
Meet Unravenge, the name Unravel, Ravage, and Revenge, the resentful Pokemon. No one ever asks, how's the substitute doll? And I thought to myself, again, of everything that I'm afraid of, all these abstract emotions. So I wanted to tether a connection for ghosts, pain, anguish. What if all the pain doled out to substitute dolls, they actually went somewhere? And that is how Unravenge came to be. So let me read the decks for you guys.
Unravenge are the manifestation of pain and suffering, channeled into a form that materialized from the distortion world. Its body is made of a dangerous entity that is barely contained by what seems to be discarded and abandoned substitute dolls. Having not been able to retaliate in its previous incarnation, it is largely impatient and extremely difficult to read in its attack pattern. A rabid and violent Pokemon, this creature requires measures beyond science to tame.
Wow.
My word.
You see its arms are kind of tied down to its legs, almost as if a preventative measure by itself to protect you from the danger. Trying to find where I might put this creature's eye, rather than using the substitute smiling eye, I opted to remove that space and use its cheek to be more of a vague place for us to place a face. Design motifs of the tentacles and the ghostly spirit of Giratina. That pain furthers into the design story. Not Giratina itself, but maybe the anguish that Giratina felt being banished, right?
Yeah.
This is maybe the everlasting punishment that creatures are meant to face for the actions of the renegade.
Dude, it's just Pokemon. Calm down.
It's not that deep, bro.
It's not. Listen, I had to wear a diaper for this. Okay.
I always forget that Giratina is a ghost type.
Yeah. To me,
and
I
it makes
kind
it
of wanted to...
way more interesting.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of tie it to be almost like the godfather, grandfather of all ghosts, and that, it's not living in the distortion world alone.
It's scary because you don't expect it. It's not like we're like asking, hey, what's inside of a substitute? So if it just popped out, it would be scary.
I love the straitjacket motif.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going for. I'd picture you find this doll, in your, during your time you're exploring, and then maybe during a story beat, since it is kind of like a legendary kind of approach, maybe it's activated, and rather than it taking the hit for you, it attacks you. And I'd picture the animation of the doll sitting there, and then from underneath it, like this column of black smoke,
the column
lifting up off the ground and forming into the hands. You see the mummifying kind of process of wrapping itself up. And I want to give shout outs to Virgo. Actually, I got to bounce some ideas off of.
She actually drew this whole thing.
She did. Thank you for rendering it for me. But yeah, that's kind of the process for Unravage, of which I really enjoy the name too.
I have to applaud you for doing such a vertical design. I think that, which is tricky to do because it feels a lot safer to keep everything in this nice kind of square ratio when you're designing. But if you let yourself get long with it, if you will, it leaves all of the get along with it. It makes it gives you all these opportunities for expressions of movement.
And I was bouncing back and forth again with Ferg, and at one point it's more snake-like, and then a more creepy, like quadruped with a long neck. And
it could have multiple forms. It could have like a quadruped form. It could have a winged form.
Yeah.
If so much of the design is vertical, and that's what makes it feel strange and uncanny to us. It's long. Your eyes have to travel up to the danger spot, which is its smile, and then when you come back down, you're like, oh shit, it's fanning out its weapons, right? The silhouette of all the ghostly bits are undulating, but the moment you get to the restrictive clothy bits, you see the lines get straight because it needs to hold the form. So
that's fun.
I think we're also 5 for 5 on these kind of distorted human things. We keep saying it, but it's kind of Slender Man-esque as well. Like it really is just like.
Ron just put out a Slender Man design too, which was successful.
We get it. Human bad.
Human bad. We're the Walking Dead.
I would love to see just a normal, like, not scary Pokemon with these proportions. Minus the doll on the top, but like it looks like a woman with heels and like long nails.
Oh, interesting.
Don't know why you didn't make the base stat total 666.
Here's the thing, I was going to, but I'm like, Pokemon wouldn't do that, would they? Direct reference to the devil. That's why I did 660.
Christian Karens would have a problem.
Ron, I'm telling you, I had 666 for the longest time, and I had to rebalance everything because I'm like, I don't see Game Freak doing that.
My number one phobia is arachnophobia.
My bad.
I'm very much scared of spiders. I'd say my second nowadays is megalophobia, I guess, the fear of large objects. I'm not afraid of a skyscraper, but if I was in the middle of like a field and all of a sudden a skyscraper appeared, that would scare me. But so I combined those things.
Big spider.
And made what I think would be the scariest spider that Game Freak would make. It's still friendly, but here's Tin Vader.
Oh, this is... I really like this one. I like this a lot.
Yeah, it's a Jack design, I guess.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
I immediately see Claydol, like,
So yeah, Claydol is the Pokemon I'm most afraid of.
Exactly, yeah.
Understandable.
Originally, there was going to be a lot of holes. It was going to be a bit trypophobia. But I thought like the eyes were enough. And again, other than Spidops, who is kind of humanoid, no spider Pokemon has 8 legs. That's why when like Bonny gave us his spider Pokemon, I wasn't that scared of it until I saw the size.
This guy's pretty big too.
If you're not afraid of spiders, at least you'd maybe be afraid of the size.
Right.
There are things that are way bigger than this, but this megalophobia isn't about the size. It's about like the surprising size of something. I guess the number one thing that I'm afraid of in terms of megalophobia is vessels. And that's why this thing is technically based on a spaceship. It's based on the tripods from World of the Worlds. Combine that with a spider. And it's this alien-friendly invader that... Again, if you hung out with it, he's a cool guy, but he doesn't understand.
He's chill.
I mean,
he doesn't understand humanity, though. He doesn't understand like Earth.
He's so cute, though. I do love him. And I think it's important that I want to stress this to the viewers. The idea is the concepts and whatnot can be scary to one person, and then still register and be scary, but then I can look at it and be like, I understand why it's scary, but I don't see it like that. Like, I want to catch this guy and put him on my team.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's
One
gonna
man's
look at
scary.
this. Yes, somebody's gonna look at this and like turn away, and they're like, I just can't look at those legs. The eyes are like freaking me out. I must turn away. And me, I'm like, oh, I like this green. You know, I like the legs. I think it's got like this cute smile going on. Like,
First, I did not like look at any reference of a spider. I couldn't. I'm not gonna do that. That would be dumb. So this is freehand. But also, like, the legs don't come out of where the legs of a spider would be, because I'm not looking at it. It comes out of the mouth, basically. It comes out of the face.
That makes it feel more alien.
It streamlines what I'm afraid of spider, because again, the anatomy of a spider is just one segment away from being an insect, one pair of legs away from being an insect, right? So it's just like I'm not afraid of insects at all. Obviously, if there's one on me like randomly, then yeah, I'll be annoyed. But like,
You'll scream at the top of your lungs and run away.
You'll set yourself on fire to make sure it
like for example, if there's an ant in my room, it's not the end of the day, But if there's a spider in the room, even if I killed it, it ruins my day.
Interesting.
Wow.
You can anthropomorphize like a jumping spider, like one of those like cute, tiny spiders. You cannot do that with like long legs.
Yeah, there's nothing human about them.
Right.
Exactly, but it just doesn't have any soul to me. So it's the same thing where it's like Tin Vader is just powered by hydraulics. It doesn't have bones. It's just like, it has an exoskeleton, but it's steel. It's made of steel, and it's relatively hollow inside. It walks by signals, by like electrical impulses, and that's why also its hidden ability is mixed signals, which is
Nice.
So it's a weird guy. It's basically that ability is basically moody. So like every turn, its stats just change, go up and down, because again,
Mixed signals. I love that.
but also because he creates like static that interferes with like signals in general, just like the average alien trope.
Classic.
Just like when
just walk
people
around.
see a bug or a spider, their signals get scrambled and they don't know how to.
Yeah, 100%. Like I can't think. Also, its legs kind of extend.
So it can get even taller abruptly, making it even scarier.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then if it suddenly just made itself like 20 feet taller, that's very unsettling.
The built-in G-Max.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you understand my pain.
I was just gonna say, I understand it, but I definitely don't feel that. I think my lizard brain burned out. I think I lost all of my logical, because I think that feels like a very rational fear, to be afraid of something large. I'm not reacting to it in the way that would help my ancestors survive. I'm just like, I'm looking at my phone right now. I can't be bothered.
You got skibbidied.
You got skipping.
I did. I got skibbity brain.
Well, that's the true fear of Halloween.
Like I'd rather have five ants every day instead of one spider every month.
Yeah, that's definitely a phobia. That is definitely crippling.
I know. Like I really wish I had like the hypnotherapy for it, or like again, it really probably is exposure therapy, but it's like you can't do that for arachnophobia. It's scary. Reoma, your turn.
My personal fear is actually something that was like discussed very briefly earlier. The story is going to continue just a little bit, just a little bit more.
Oh, we like that.
The girl wasn't the same after that. Hollow after seeing what once was her friend, the girl's parents acquired a new Suzy, just as sweet, curious, and human as the old one. Things were almost normal after that. Playing, learning, gardening. The new Suzy fit right in with the family. That was until she was left on her own one day, loose to explore the manor by herself. In the forbidden workplace of the father, a grand painting was unveiled by the flooding light. Framed in reverence, the sun, the champion of Gala, and his partner Pokemon Efferjack. A knot tightened in the second Suzim's stomach as she recognized the distorted features of what once was a Suzim like her, autonomy relinquished. Fearing the household would lead her to the same fate, Suzim believed she could not escape, but perhaps she could ease the pain. The girl followed a trail of fabric through the house, pieces of stuffing, strands of thread littering the hallways, an unexpected sight to return to. A low whine and pant like a growlith greeted her in the lounge, raising to a squeak of excitement as it saw its friend.
Nah.
Whoa!
This is
Full Metal Alchemist.
Chimarionette.
Whoa.
Yes.
Chimarionette.
Fire name,
Oh my
fire
God.
design.
Thank you.
Oh, I love that they're both connected, or all three of them are connected.
That's epic.
The resewn.
Sewn.
Damn.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, look at the head. The head is flipped. Oh, creepy.
And then they still got the fingers that flip you off at the tail, because we, you know.
Exactly. It was an important piece of the puzzle.
Important, yeah.
But
F Jack. Jack subjectively, specifically, but the marionette cut and like coming from the eyes looks so cool, dude.
The strands of thread coming out of like the mask, they ended up like being like goat horns, because it really is like kind of like a real chimera.
Oh right.
Like the chimera.
Strings reshaped into bestial limbs, stitching etched along its joints, mind and body torn apart and repieced. It attempted to nuzzle the remains of its cracked Suzime face into the girl's arm. She recoiled. What was left of her closest friend, pacified into domesticity to ease the stress of battle. Its wild eyes turned downward like a scalded rockruff. Forced into a world it was never supposed to be a part of, Suzime had now truly become a Pokemon. So Ron got it pretty much immediately. My biggest fear is like loss of humanity. And that includes Full Metal Alchemist, which I watched at a very young age. And
Idiot!
yeah, I know. But also like there's that like horror movie called Tusk. Like that's supposed to be a silly movie, but it
that's what I was
freaks me
thinking
out.
when I was saying that. I was thinking of Tusk too.
That's terrifying. That is a fear.
And I won't spoil it, but also that one scene, if you guys have played it, you'll know, from Tears of the Kingdom. It's got some elements of like taxidermy and like those Chinese giant dragon puppets. Like it's kind of got the sort of the lifting up face. But that's pretty minimal. Said that the Galar fossils are probably my scariest Pokemon. As much as I love them, just because they live in agony, and just like going from a human to a beast, like that terrifies me.
That's like the opposite of the kind of fears that we were talking about before, where it's not a primal instinct, it's the opposite of that. It's the understanding that what we have makes us different from every other species of animal on the planet, and if we lose that, then suddenly we become so vulnerable.
The result of a sapient consciousness engaging in Pokemon battles, Chimerionette have torn and restitched their minds and bodies into bestial anatomy, in a desperate effort to temper the strain of combat on their soul. Their quietened psyche has given way to animal rage, giving them a strength ferocious enough to shake off the pain of their mismatched physique. However, one may occasionally see the flicker of something familiar behind their eyes, gone as soon as it comes.
It really is. Those are the kind of horror films that I hate the most, where it's like at the end, it's a sad ending where the protagonist ends up being some kind of misshapen, disfigured creature that isn't human anymore, but you can maybe they cry at the end, like they have like a tear at the end, and you can see that they're still human, but they can't like emote.
We're able to sympathize. We're watching them as if almost like we lost our humanity with them.
Well, now I'm bummed.
Sorry. Well, I hope I didn't bring the mood down too much, but
no, that's the goal.
Jack, you better show us a clown.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I do think that most people are going to find my personal horror Pokemon a little silly, because I definitely don't have any phobias. I don't have anything crippling that keeps me. I don't know. I did.
You're so lucky.
I used to have a fear of needles up until fairly recently, but I'm not sure how I wish I could tell you how I got over it. I don't really know how I got over it.
I feel like your name set yourself up to be like to relate to scary things, whether it's Jack-o'-lantern, Jack Frost.
Maybe that's why I'm not afraid of him.
Yeah.
It's just these are my people.
There's a lot of like villains named Jack.
Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is just Jack Skellington. This is my neighborhood. This is my crowd. I'm not afraid of it. But there is some things when I think about scary visuals. Something that has always unsettled me since I was very, very young. Really dark water that I can't see in. Ever since I was very little, I've had these recurring nightmares of this very dark tank in like an aquarium. That's so dark I really can't see anything inside it. But every once in a while, something swims towards the glass, just briefly enough that I can sort of make out the shape of it, and then it disappears. Almost seeing something and then it disappearing really unnerves me. Up until recently, I was very afraid of like swimming in water where I couldn't see below me. I just imagined something coming up underneath me and just swallowing me. The visual that I assigned to that fear is Glutamare.
Yo! This is close to what I was going to do, honestly.
Is kind of a silly looking Pokemon, but it really is just sort of the best visual representation of what I imagine swimming underneath me when I'm in water that I can't see through.
Well, that's the thing. Again, when you showed this, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's not as scary. But then you look at the size, and that really is what makes it scary.
Yeah. Groupers are just massive. They are just really, really large fish.
Damn!
And they're not, like, particularly aggressive. I don't think there are any accounts of a grouper trying to attack a human. They're not really that big that they could just swallow a human whole, and that's how they eat things. They just inhale. It's interesting, though, because I knew I wanted to do ocean stuff, but initially I didn't know how I wanted to execute the visuals. And my first sketch was a completely different Pokemon altogether.
Like a Man of War?
Yeah, so like a jellyfish, and it was like a lot of like little arms that would come up and grab people. But eventually, I was working through this, and I was like, this isn't scaring me. This is...
Yeah, it's kind of cute.
So I had to like reflect again and think like, all right, now what's really scary about the water? It's not so much that they're like little things trying to grab me. And then I did this little sketch. Hold on, let me grab this off of my this like top down of something like coming up to eat an entire person and their boat. There's nothing explicitly scary about this Pokemon. It's kind of just a big fish, but it will eat you if you are swimming out in the ocean, or even if you're in a small boat. It will just inhale you because it lives out in a part of the ocean where there are very few things for it to eat. So anytime it comes across anything that can fit in its mouth, it will eat it. And so
I mean, a lion will eat me, but I still think it's pretty cool looking.
Right. Yeah. Like it's more about the context of it. Like if you were like fell off a boat and you're just swimming out in the middle of the ocean treading water, this would seem a lot scarier than if you were just looking at a picture of it. The glutton of the sea, the glut de mer. But when I said that out loud, I was like, glut de mer, oh, that's kind of a fun name. I gave it Gulp Missile because I thought it'd be really funny if it like it used dive and then like inhaled like a kind of large Pokemon, like it just inhaled a Wailmer and then spat it out at you. Like Wailmer's too big, so it couldn't swallow Wailmer, but like it got one stuck in its mouth, so it spat it back out at you.
Rendering impeccable. Mwah.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I can really relate to this one, actually. This is kind of my childhood fear was big fish.
You were a fish?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, and it's kind of whale shark-esque as well. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, and yeah, this one might be the scariest. I know you said it was kind of goofy, and it is, but like, it really does freak me out.
Yeah, and I guess because of the specific parameters of this challenge, I think it being a little goofy and a little bit cute is helpful because it makes it feel more like a Pokemon.
Yes.
Because, if it was just scary, then... Because, like, I was also thinking, like, oh, should I get really creepy with it, where it's, like, all dark and you can barely see it, and it's got, like, little pieces of things hanging out of its mouth and stuff, but I was like...
If it was black, it would be scarier for some reason. Black and white, with, like, white accents.
Do we artificially inflate the fear factor because it looks like a more unknown thing, or a creepy anglerfish that we see to be that jelly black?
Well, all I know is that I'm not afraid of dolphins, but orcas, the coloration of them is very scary to me.
See, I look at them
jet black with white accents.
I look at them and I think they're cute because I equate them with pandas.
Yeah, but panda has a lot of white in it. There's too much. There's enough white that it's a balance. But black with just a little bit of white is scary to me.
BST 420, explain yourself.
It was actually a funny coincidence.
I mean, look at those eyes. He looks a little bit...
Yeah, he's a little bit of the devil's cabbage on Halloween.
This is just a Ron thing. Nobody else is going to ever utter these sentences. But 420 to me, in Halloween, 420 is usually when the trick-or-treaters come.
For real?
Because, like, it's usually at least an hour or two after public school's done.
That's true.
Right, yeah.
After school.
Before it gets
also
too dark?
like, it's still... It's not too dark, but it's a little... It's getting dark, so it's like more fun for people to trick or treat during that time. 420 is what I associate with Halloween.
420.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, dude.
I mean, Halloween's always a little bit more fun with 420.
That's what I'm saying. That's my trick, and that's my treat.
I was just saying, I love how that even though it's not a shark, you still manage to kind of imply the sharp teeth. through keeping it a filter feeder because of the kind of the saw blade patterns
saw blade
inside.
for sure, yeah.
That's really smart.
Yeah, but like inside a fish's mouth, you see its gills, which are just basically exposed veins.
Okay.
And
now I know.
it's creepy. It gives a very it's almost gory. Like it just feels.
Yeah.
It's gory
feels
without
weird.
being like outwardly like, here's my exposed entrails. Like it's like, no, this is just how I live, but it's alien to you, and therefore it's weird and gross.
It's Zelda boss weak spot.
And it makes you feel vulnerable. It makes you feel like, oh god, like that's how you get air, like that's how you breathe. Like I can rip that out so easily. Like,
Girl, you get air like that? That's the thing, but once you explained it, it was less scary. And I feel like that's the lesson of the day, is that ignorance is what causes fear.
that is so true.
Yes.
So true and so relevant.
So wise this Halloween.
Have a contemplative Halloween.
Yeah, put that on a sign.
Have a contemplative Halloween. The hardest part about this challenge is really thinking about your fears. It's a hard thing to do. Understanding why you're afraid of things.
Well, I went to therapy, so it was not that hard.
But therapy is hard. Therapy is hard.
Wait.
So many people avoid therapy because of that exact reason. They don't want to have to face their fears. They don't have to think about it.
Literally the last therapy visit, my, doctor, she's telling me about existential crisis. For Ron, that's his fear is not something you can go to a therapist about per se.
For me, it's 8 legs bad, 6 legs okay.
6 legs. For me, what happens when we die?
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween, everyone.
And make sure to check out Bonnie's super scary Halloween video as well. It's pretty awesome.